Let me tell you about one of the most unbelievable and frankly bizarre true crime stories you'll ever hear. It involves a seemingly ordinary English couple, John and Anne Darwin, a fake death, a secret life next door, and an international escape plan that came crashing down because of one tiny digital mistake.
It sounds like something straight out of a movie, doesn't it? But for the Darwins, this wasn't fiction. This became their very real and very illegal game plan. And it all started with a problem a lot of us can relate to, even if their so-called solution was completely off the rails.
So why? Why would anyone do this? Well, the answer is as old as time: money. The Darwins had gotten in way over their heads buying properties, and they were drowning. They were desperate.
By the year 2002, they were staring down the barrel of a £130,000 mortgage. Now, to put that in perspective, that's like $270,000 today. Bankruptcy was knocking at their door, and John, a former teacher, felt like there was only one way out.
And this was it. This was their golden ticket. John had a life insurance policy worth £250,000. The plan was as simple as it was insane. John would just disappear. He would die, Anne would collect the insurance payout, and all their financial problems would vanish along with him.
Okay, so the motive is there, the plan is in place. And on what seemed like a totally normal day in March 2002, John Darwin got ready to literally vanish off the face of the earth.
On paper, it all looks pretty convincing, right? John heads out for a paddle in his canoe. He doesn't come home. His wife, Anne, reports him missing. The very next day, a huge search party finds the smashed-up remains of his canoe. As far as the world was concerned, and this is the heartbreaking part, as far as their two sons were concerned, John Darwin was gone, dead.
But right from the very beginning, something felt off. The thing is, the sea was bizarrely calm that day. The experienced rescue teams were scratching their heads, thinking, how could anyone get into that much trouble in water like this? It was the first tiny little crack in a story that was eventually going to shatter into a million pieces.
So, John is officially dead. Anne has the insurance money. Their sons are grieving for their father. What happens next? This is where the story goes from audacious to just plain unbelievable. You'd think John would flee the country, right? Nope. He just moved in next door.
For years, John lived this double life. At first, he was hiding out in a little apartment right next to his own house. Then, get this, he actually moved back in with Anne, snaking around and hiding whenever anyone came to visit, including their own kids. In the meantime, he got himself a fake passport using the name of a baby who had died, and they started making plans to escape to Panama for good.
I mean, this just shows you the insane risks they were taking. At one point, one of their tenants actually saw John in the street, recognized him, and just flat out asked, "Aren't you supposed to be dead?" John's reply, "Just don't tell anyone." And incredibly, the guy didn't. He later said he just didn't want to get involved. You can't make this stuff up.
For 5 years, they actually got away with it. The lie held. They sold off all their properties, moved the money offshore, and were starting to build this new life for themselves out in Panama. But then, a sudden change in Panamanian visa laws meant John's fake identity wasn't going to work anymore. He had to come back to the UK and become John Darwin again.
And this was their grand finale, their last big performance. John just strolls into a random police station in London and says he thinks he's a missing person, but he has amnesia, can't remember a single thing from the last 5 years. Anne, of course, plays the part of the stunned, overjoyed wife. Their sons are just ecstatic to have their dad back. For a split second, it almost looked like they were going to pull it off.
The police were suspicious, to say the least. I mean, Anne had been taking solo trips abroad, moving huge sums of money, not exactly the behavior of a grieving widow. But they needed proof. They needed that one piece of evidence that would blow the whole thing wide open. So what was it?
It's almost funny, isn't it? A massive, complex, international fraud that fooled friends, family, and financial institutions for half a decade was brought down by Google. A police officer doing some digging just typed 3 words into the search bar: John, Anne, and Panama.
And boom, there it was. A photograph dated 2006, a full 4 years after John had supposedly drowned at sea, showing him and Anne, smiling, tanned, looking happy as can be, posing with a property agent in Panama. The photo was just sitting there on the agent's public website. It was the smoking gun. It was undeniable proof.
When the police sat down with Anne and slid that photo across the table, the game was over.
She didn't even try to deny it. Her first words were about her children. She knew, in that instant, that the worst part wasn't the fraud or the prison time, it was the betrayal of her own sons. And with that one photo, the entire house of cards came tumbling down. The dream of a sunny new life in Panama was gone, replaced by the very cold, very grim reality of a prison cell.
In July of 2008, they were both sentenced to over 6 years behind bars. The judge called their deception callous and calculated, and he made a point of mentioning the immense pain they inflicted on their sons, who had truly believed their father was dead for all those years.
And what about all that money? Well, the authorities were able to claw back almost all of it. Over £500,000 in insurance and pension money was recovered. In the end, after all that scheming, they were left with absolutely nothing.
John and Anne both served their time, and they're out now. But the story leaves you with this one big question. Sure, they lost the money, and they lost their freedom for a while, but they completely destroyed their family. So what's the real price you pay for a lie that big? Is it the money you have to give back? Or is it the trust from the people you love that you can never, ever get back?